In referencing monarchy, a few images might well come to mind. Crowns, coronations, regal splendour, aged tradition, and a perfected succession. For many, this is all that monarchy really represents. But in practice, it's both much deeper and more shallow than that. The term monarchy derives from the Greek monos, one, and archo, to rule. Apologies for the pronunciation. This is already the key to understanding the issue, as more specific terms did exist in even archaic Greece to denote particular ruling arrangements and roles. The lofty, almost unapproachable sacred annex was the foremost priest of the city worship, on which almost all civic life was based. Incidentally, this word is commonly associated with Zeus himself, who finds his earthly reflections in the mortal anarches, or kings. Compare this to the subsequent archon, derived from archo, as mentioned earlier, more literally, the ruler. As such, the term monarchy, then as now, is a general descriptor, an umbrella term under which more specific forms are categorized. The annex, revered and spiritual; the archon, lower and more secular; the tyrant, a monarch, but illegitimate in some way. Much the same holds for us now. Many have in mind a distinction between the dictator and the monarch. One could even carry it further to talk of the director or owner of certain businesses being the sole man in power, the monarch. In military terms, unity of command is a core principle, dictating that, quote, unity of command means that all forces operate under a single commander with the requisite authority to direct all forces employed in pursuit of a common purpose, end quote. One might rightly call these monarchs of the battlefield. All of these different permutations, though typically siloed in the mind, are driving at the same idea. Power to, rule by, and leadership of one, monarchy. To suggest, as so many do, that monarchy is a relic of the past, and something which is inappropriate to the modern world, is clearly not a serious point when it is so inescapable. There seems to have been a rhetorical flourish that has taken place, and hit the mark rather effectively. Especially as this is only covering the ways in which monarchy emerges officially and without contention. If we delve into the murkier realms of realpolitik, then we find many more instances of monarchical authority manifesting itself, where one opinion leader or efficient political operative can maneuver successfully enough to dictate to the rest, whether it be in a gang, office, or country. In so many of these cases, it is not a case of whether a monarchy forms, but how pure in form, and the character of the monarch. Those who wield a lot of power, and do so without regard to the appeals of his juniors, will much more readily be seen as a monarch, or rather, a tyrant, in usual discourse. Meanwhile, one who either delegates or decides on the basis of prior consultation will be able to hide his power and position. This may even extend to swapping out the official, most senior and prestigious position to a de facto subordinate, muddying the waters even further. In this way, despite all the barriers that are erected to prevent the exercise of monarchical authority, a monarch will often emerge anyway, merely of a different character. Such as a CEO who is capable of manipulating media perception and employee sentiment to bypass the will of a board of directors or activist shareholders. Or a retired bureaucrat or politician who continues to be seen as a thought leader and mentor to the incumbents, without the restrictions of official office. They might not wear a crown, but they hold the puppet strings all the same. Taken to a sort of logical conclusion, this might lead to the situation described earlier, complete with stable hereditary succession, regalia, and pomp. But as will become clear, there are many ways to view this issue, and no one single dominant model for how a monarchy develops. In light of all this, examining monarchy becomes more of a question of types, understandings, levers used, powers wielded, and justifications. It is far more omnipresent than most would care to give it credit for. So, let us give monarchy its fair due. Just for a sense of what it is not, monarchy's opponents, such as they are in most cases, are twofold. Oligarchy, rule by a clique, none of whom have power over the others enough to dominate. And anarchy, lack of rule, where power cannot be exerted to curtail behaviours or actions. Implicitly, another alternative is democracy, power to the multitude, typically via a vote, but only one which corresponds to an immediate action, and not one which has organised predetermined outcomes, for example through a party apparatus. However, as is immediately clear on several fronts, despite the reputation, democracy is not a true alternative. In practice, it is more of a method of obfuscating an oligarchy, or even simply a PR stunt. This is perhaps even reflected in the etymology, for the multitude do not rule, they simply claim power, but the exact connotations are debatable. Therefore, where there is a stable polity, and therefore a lack of anarchy, there is either an oligarchy or a monarchy. Much of the rest is rhetorical justification, or voluntary procedure. This will likely appear vague, and that is quite natural. The details are particular to each model or type, so to say any more would be to falsify one or more forms which clearly fit into the category of monarchy. As such, with these foundations set, there is only to talk of the various types. And we certainly shall do so, very shortly.